I want to drop in on this topic this morning about racism, classism, genderism, all the isms, because there's something missing here that's not widely understood, because people don't know about psychological projections and the inability to see oneself via self-reflection and stuff. It can be a pretty bad place to be, because if you don't see yourself correctly, everything else in the world is skewed. So this is why when you have your identity placed not in your politics or your ethnicity or your gender or whatever, it's placed somewhere else, which is much greater. That's why I place my identity is in God, which is why it's so weird that, you know, when people try to tell me my identity is what I look like and, you know, how much money I make and that type of thing, it's like there's a missing link there, because all those things are basically human based. But classism, racism, genderism, these things, they come to the forefront by people who actually have those issues with others, who to somewhere inside of them they have an issue. And it's not that they're trying to, and you know, and I'll give a little bit of grace here. It's not that they're trying to destroy the world with it by making everything equal. It's that they have a skewed view of what these attributes actually are of sinful people. So they take racism as being anybody that disagrees with their ideas. So you're a bigot or you're a racist based off of your disagreement with someone about their points or whatever, without really realizing that the real actual racism is what's happening to individuals who have a different opinion. So the people who are part of this whole narrative, the classism, actually the elitism too, what they're not seeing is that in the true issue, there's people who are black, white, Asian, whatever they might identify as, who do not agree with the narratives. And because these people don't agree, the only way these people can be classified and identified is by demeaning them and by calling them racist, by calling them bigots and the like. That's the only way they can be identified, because these folks, they don't fit in the mainstream the mainstream's narrative. So like me, a black guy, I don't fit the narrative. You might be a woman who doesn't fit the narrative about all this gender crap. You might even be somebody who's gay, who's looking at this stuff like, dude, these people are freaking crazy. Like, there's no bounds for what's happening right now. You might be looking at this stuff, you don't fit the narrative. And because you don't fit the narrative, these people can't identify you. But so they'll go off of other things in the periphery. So they'll go off of your class, they'll go off of how much money you make. But in that, they won't go after black millionaires or Hispanic millionaires, or they won't go after Hispanic liberals or Hispanic or Asian liberals. They won't go after them if they're billionaires or millionaires, but they'll go after the other people, the ones who don't identify with them ideologically. And this is where you have to see like how this stuff is it's just so dumb. And the reason why I'm saying it's dumb is there's no intellectual honesty in it, and there's no correlation in anything that makes sense. The goalpost is always moved, and there's no reference to something really concrete about what racism, classism, or any of this stuff actually is. It gets moved the moment that someone tries to define it on the opposite side of the aisle. So like, I try to define racism, I'm like, okay, well, if it's okay for black people to call black people niggers, and then white people who identify as liberal to call black people Uncle Toms, these are both racist terms. These are both terms used by individuals who are on the left, but they're not racist when they do that. But the people who are supposedly fit the caricature of using those terms, which is the hick or the somebody that might have the Confederate flag, like those are the racists. Those are the individuals, or the person that's a Trump supporter. Those are the racists, despite Trump supporters looking vastly different, like all the way across the board, vastly different. So how does this even equate to reality? It doesn't equate to reality. And the reason why it doesn't equate to reality is because it doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical. And trying to define it will only hinder you. Because right now, as you see, people have to continuously press the button about our number 45, okay? Because he's the one that can make the news, because the only way that people get their eye off of what's really happening in this nation to everyone is by pointing the finger somewhere else and by blaming somebody else for what's happening here in the United States. So the things at the border, the things with gender, the things with guns, the things with freedom, the things with the freedom to speak and the freedom of speech, all these things are basically being decimated right now by individuals who are neoliberal and neo-progressive. These individuals are regressing this nation back into segregation. They're regressing this nation right into totalitarianism, which this nation wasn't built for that. So when you see that the authoritarians using COVID, you see the authoritarians using safety, you see the authoritarians using any way, means, shape, or form to just gain control over other people for their good, for what they call their common good. Understand, every single time these people talk, they move the goalposts for themselves. These people are changing everything for themselves. So the classism, the egotism, the racism, the genderism, there's no defined way, there's no way to define these terms concretely, because these people, they have not put together yet that how they are being brainwashed, how they are being trained, how they are being told what to think, what to believe, even about this diversity stuff. They don't even know how that even works out if they play their full ideology out. They don't. The full ideology is not looking like something from, a freaking science fiction movie. It's not going to look like everybody's at peace with one another. That's not possible. So in the end, like what the guys in Just Thinking were talking about, what any one of these people from the sort of the trial, or what do you mean, or any of these guys, what they basically are pointing to is, without there being a real foundation for what is truth and what is lie, there will always be a reign of the lie. The lie will be used against all people at all times, even the ones who profess allegiance to these ideologies. It will happen at some period of time. So while somebody might try to align themselves with diversity, or try to align themselves with some sort of inclusion narrative, or the race narrative, or what any of these things are, as they try to do so, they're noticing right now that every single time that they think they have a grasp for it, well, we're trying to do justice for this. Oh wait, justice got, okay, now wait, we got to go after Asians who are trying to get into Harvard. We got to go after Hispanics who are actually, or about border security. Oh wait, we got to go after black people who want to have their own businesses without there being some sort of, government overreach. We got to go after women who are not believing that, the Me Too movement is just about Republicans. Okay? These things get moved every single time. And the only way that you can get through this is by stopping, by saying stop. Okay, let me just stop. Like, what the heck is really going on? And why is it that there's folks out there who don't seem to align with this? Are they really bigots? Are they really racist? Are they really misogynist? Are they really these things? Or are those terms being changed per the day? That's where real wisdom, that's where real intuition have to come into play. Because right now, the classic liberal is looking at stuff and saying, okay, we are going into some really weird territory right now, and something's not right. The reason why it's not right is because it's not right, and you're not being told the truth. So I'm trying to tell you this morning. If you're not seeing the truth and reality of what's really taking place, you're being lied to, you're being fed the lies, and you're eating the lie. You think that there's people in your life who are turning out to be racist, sexist, misogynist, and all that stuff. You have no clue that you've actually been indoctrinated by communists who are using all these different ways of dividing you from your family members, your friends, and your loved ones. You have no clue. And the people like me who are trying to point it out, you're calling us the racists and the bigots. Seriously, that's what's happening. But until you actually have a little bit of humility in yourself to say, okay, let me just ask a question, you're going to continue to be fooled.